one thing and you mix it with another thing, then it hardens. But if you add some in that's not supposed to be there and it's fully developed, you're not going to take that out. Like if you added oil, you threw some oil in the epoxy, like, now you f***ed that whole thing up. That's kind of what you're doing to a person when you raise a person famous. If you take some reality star from the time they're 5 and then they're in a sitcom and a movie, and then you've gone through your whole, I don't know why I said reality star, but you've gone through your whole life. If you're that person, if you're Justin Bieber, you've gone through your whole life.
Under that eye.
Under the eye, and it's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, and more people paying attention. Like you never had a moment like you did where you're working for the railroad tracks.
It was hard for me being that young and being in the industry and not knowing where to turn, and everyone, telling me they love me and, just turn their back on you in a second.
Joe Rogan just jumped into a convo people been dodging for years. And now he's pointing at names like Ellen DeGeneres, Diddy, and Justin Bieber's early story. What's being hinted at online ain't just basic industry mentorship talk. It's the kind of chatter about what people say went on behind closed doors, but nothing is confirmed. Bieber was still extremely young during those early fame years, and a lot of people now look back and talk about it differently. And if Rogan is connecting dots correctly, the version of Bieber's story people thought they knew might not be the full picture. Conversation online has been shifting for a while, with certain names popping up again in ways people weren't expecting. And right now, the spotlight isn't just focused on Diddy anymore. Instead, the conversation is stretching wider, and Rogan stepping in has people paying closer attention because he's looking at patterns, behavior, and old clips that were always there but rarely questioned. And once he laid things out, one name that kept coming back in online discussions was Ellen DeGeneres. Now pause right there, because for years Ellen has been painted as that safe daytime TV figure laughter, giveaways, feel-good energy, the whole polished image. But Rogan shifting that picture has people uneasy, because he's pointing at how close she allegedly was around Diddy. Not just quick red carpet moments, but repeated appearances and interactions that some say look deeper than surface level connection. And when that gets stacked next to what's already been discussed online about Diddy's private environments, controlled spaces, invite-only settings where nothing is supposed to leak, suddenly the conversation changes in a major way.
No, it's great. So tell me about your birthday party. Am I invited?
Yes. Yes, you're definitely invited. I invite you to all my parties. You just haven't seemed to show up to
No, well, is it on the East Coast?
Yes.
Well, that's why. Why don't you have one here on the West Coast? Because I work all the time.
Okay, well, maybe I have one at your house.
Where's now, what time would your party start, let's say?
Like 9:30.
Really? That early?
Yeah.
I could make that.
Really?
But I could think of you of starting a party at like midnight.
It's not just who was around Diddy, it turns into who had access to those rooms in the first place. Then older clips start getting brought back up online, showing Diddy talking about private time with Bieber and describing experiences in vague ways he didn't fully explain, even framing it like something a young star would dream of. At least that's how people online are interpreting it. Rogan then brings in a blunt angle that hits different mentorship usually isn't wrapped in secrecy and closed doors, so people start asking what exactly was being kept quiet there. And the focus shifts again because it's not only about past comments, it's also about how Bieber has carried himself over time. The emotional interviews, the breakdown moments, and the way he speaks about protecting younger artists like Billie Eilish, some say that doesn't sound like just regular fame stress anymore, and that's what's fueling even more online debate.
So check this out, yo. Justin, you ever seen the movie 48 Hours? Right now, he's having 48 hours with Diddy, him and his boy. They're having the times of their lives, like where we hanging out and what we doing. We can't really disclose, but it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream. I have been given custody of him. He signed to Usher. I had legal guardianship of Usher when he did his first album. I did Usher's first album. I don't have legal guardianship of him, but for the next 48 hours, he's with me. So and we gonna go full crazy.
Going crazy.
Crazy.
Trusted acting completely different behind closed doors. That kind of emotional shift has made fans rewatch everything he's said with a different lens. Now, Rogan takes that and ties it back to the environment around it. Because if a young artist is placed into rooms they didn't fully choose, surrounded by powerful industry figures, then responsibility doesn't sit on just one person's shoulders. It starts spreading across everyone who had access, influence, or proximity. And that's exactly where Ellen gets pulled back into the conversation again, because if she was truly close to Diddy, comfortable in that circle, and present in that world, then people start asking a very direct question: how much did she actually know? That one question alone flips the tone of the entire narrative in a major way.
Tired of being played out. Like, all of this is weird. And it's just, it's the symbolism, it's all of that. I'm tired of Usher. I wish somebody would come out and just like sue him. Like, we need Usher. No, we do. We need a victim to come out and be honest about him. Because what I'm realizing is that he's gonna fake the funk into the victim, man. He's just gonna keep on sucking the devil's. And I don't know.
Now it goes even deeper, because Rogan isn't treating this like one-off drama. He frames it as a repeating pattern, a system where young talent gets brought in early, exposed to adult environments they don't fully understand, then expected to continue publicly like nothing ever happened. And from there, the conversation keeps expanding, with even more names starting to get dragged into the wider discussion. Bryshire Gray, young rising fast, meets Will Smith. Then everything falls apart in the public eye. People online point to struggles, emotional lows, and a career slowdown, while others mention Jaguar Wright allegedly bringing attention to Will Smith in that broader conversation. August Alsina entering powerful circles, later speaking out about experiences that felt emotionally heavy and complicated. Not what most people would call normal relationships, according to online discussions that circulate widely. Even Jaden Smith gets mentioned in wider discussions about growing up around elite Hollywood environments at a young age.
It's just great. I'm watching him, he's with my man Charlie Mack. So Charlie was with me every step of the way. First out the limo. So Charlie has been with me, 30 years coming up in the business. So, he's surrounded by a whole lot of strength. He's surrounded by a whole lot of love.
None of these situations are identical, but Rogan's point is about repetition and pattern recognition. When multiple young artists move through similar high-power spaces and later describe changes in behavior, emotion, or direction, the pattern starts standing out more clearly. Rogan's argument focuses on that repetition across stories.
All of those that were harmed and corrupted while in his care, I grew up to be men. Boys like Bashir Gray, your own son. Like, your own son. Do people forget about that voice clip that I played from Brother Belial?
See, they trying to sell him out so he'll feel too embarrassed to file his lawsuit against Diddy for what Will and Diddy did to him with Jaden and Justin present. That tape.
Now back to Bieber, because the biggest question online isn't just what happened, it's who was around and who allowed certain access in the first place. Usher is often mentioned as the one who introduced him to that world, and people keep asking whether there was more time spent together behind the scenes than what was publicly shown. Ellen also keeps getting pulled back into the same circle of discussion, birthday shoutouts, playful nicknames like Cuddle, Mix, Snuggle, and moments that fans now replay with a different mindset. At the time, it was brushed off with a "you don't need to know why," but now people online are rereading that differently. Then Rogan adds another layer timing. Because as more names started getting mentioned across the internet, some public figures began shifting their presence, with Ellen making fewer appearances and keeping a lower profile without much explanation. And while none of that alone proves anything, it definitely changes how people interpret old clips, interviews, and moments that once seemed harmless but now get questioned from a different angle. Timing like that always makes people look twice. Why do past interactions suddenly feel way more uncomfortable now than they did back then? And why do so many people tied to these circles either stay quiet or respond in a way that still doesn't fully answer the questions being asked? On top of that, you've got a young artist in the middle of it all who, looking back, seemed—
I actually sat down with Will and had a conversation due to the transformation from their marriage to life partnership that they've spoken on several times, and it, not involving romanticism. He gave me his blessing, and I totally gave myself to that relationship for years of my life.
To be carrying something heavier than what the public was told. Then you've got powerful figures all overlapping in the same spaces, the same industry circles, the same private networks. Old clips start resurfacing, stories start shifting, and a pattern begins to repeat with different names showing up in similar conversations. That's when the question starts hitting harder. Was Justin Bieber just another young artist trying to survive fame? Or someone who witnessed and went through things the public is only now trying to connect together? And if that idea holds any weight at all, then the conversation gets a lot bigger fast! How many other stories follow the same pattern behind the scenes? How many people stay silent simply because speaking up comes with consequences they can't afford? Because if what Rogan is pointing toward is even partly accurate, then this isn't just about one person anymore, it's about how the whole system moves, who gets protected in it, and who ends up carrying the damage. People online are still digging through everything Rogan brought up, and the conversation isn't slowing down at all. It's actually spreading across platforms faster than before. Old clips, forgotten interviews, and past moments are getting pulled back into the spotlight like pieces of a puzzle people are trying to force together. Some call it just internet speculation running wild, while others believe it's pointing toward deeper patterns inside the entertainment world that usually stay out of view. Either way, the noise keeps growing, and every new repost or breakdown adds another layer to the discussion. At the same time, the silence from certain influential corners keeps raising more questions than answers. When powerful spaces don't directly respond or clarify, people naturally start filling in the blanks themselves, and that's where theories start multiplying fast. Rogan's comments are now being re-examined from different angles, with people trying to link separate stories into one larger picture. And the focus is slowly shifting away from individual names and more toward how systems of influence actually operate, how access works, and why certain narratives only surface long after the fact. And that's where things start getting even more intense online. Because once people stop looking at isolated moments and start focusing on patterns, everything gets rechecked with a different mindset. Old interviews, resurfaced clips, and forgotten connections all start getting pulled into the same spotlight, almost like pieces of a bigger puzzle people didn't notice before. Now, the debate isn't just about what was said back then. It's about what was ignored, what was overlooked, and what was never properly explained in the first place. Some people online argue it's being blown out of proportion, saying coincidences are just being stitched together too loosely. But others push back hard, pointing out that when too many similar details stack up, it becomes harder to dismiss outright. And as more names keep getting pulled into the same orbit of conversation, the focus keeps drifting toward one bigger idea. How much of what happened in Hollywood over the years has actually been fully told, and how much is still sitting underneath the surface waiting to come out? And now, the conversation keeps evolving online, because people aren't just reacting anymore, they're actively digging, comparing timelines, and pulling old moments back into circulation.
You and I were going through a very difficult time.
Yeah.
And we decided.
I was done with your ass.
Yeah, you kicked me to the curb.
I was done with you.
Yeah.
Marriages have that, though. Marriages have that.
Yeah, we basically, we broke up.
And then what did you do, Jada?
Well, you know, I think from there, you know, as time.
What used to be random clips on the internet is now being treated like potential pieces of a much bigger story. At the center of it, there's still this growing tension between what was publicly shown and what people feel was never fully explained. Some voices online are saying it's just hindsight changing how things look, nothing more than reinterpretation of old fame moments. But others argue it's not just one thing, it's the repetition, the overlapping circles, and the way certain names keep appearing in similar discussions over time. And as this continues, the focus keeps shifting away from single individuals and more toward the environment itself. How influence spreads, how access is controlled, and how young artists move through spaces they don't fully understand until much later. That shift in perspective is what's keeping this topic alive and constantly expanding across platforms. So now the question really hits hard. Are all of these just random coincidences? Or is there something deeper connecting these dots that people are only starting to notice now? As more clips resurface and more conversations build online, it raises the tension even more about what might still be hidden beneath the surface. And if more voices eventually start speaking up, what else could end up coming out into the open? If you've been following this whole discussion, drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share so you don't miss what comes next.